Broadway World Raleigh, and I am here with Estes Tarver, who is the artistic director of Moonlight Stage Company here in North Raleigh, among other things. You do a lot. So before we get to Moonlight, you've done a lot of TV work. A lot of your career has been spent on television, and you've done some high-profile shows. Most recently, Under the Dome and House of Cards. House of Cards is ending, and it's such a crazy beloved show. There's a fandom page about you for Under the Dome because you had a recurring role on that. So talk to me about those two experiences and kind of what that was like working on those two big shows. They're not the only big shows you've worked on, but they're the most recent.
They're great. Really nice people in everything, which is always nice. But you hear so much, and then you get to a TV set, and typically everybody's awesome. Like that's what I found is a bunch of pros doing pro stuff, and they're all super people. But I did Under the Dome. It was originally a one episode part that I got that ended up. I think sometimes they like the character, or it's a literary device, or whatever they do, and it expanded there. And so I did. I guess back half of season 2, and then I got electrocuted and chopped up. And but it was a wonderful cast, wonderful people, a lot of fun. And then House of Cards the same, really nice people, and shoots up in Baltimore. So it's it's like I think probably it's amazing what the business is doing now. It makes it possible to be in North Carolina and be an actor more than it used to be. In the last 5 years, everything has just expanded like crazy. But I think the last 5 or 6 shows I've done have been Richmond and Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Atlanta and Charleston. So like it's crazy how much is on the East Coast.
Happening on the East
everywhere.
Coast.
Yeah, really everywhere. It's crazy. It's just popping up everywhere.
And in addition to acting on television, in the middle of that, you wrote and directed and produced an independent movie called The Changeover.
Yeah.
And now that movie deals a lot with depression and mental illness, some really heavy themes. So what was kind of the catalyst in you wanting to bring that story to film?
I was clinically depressed for about a decade and didn't know it. And kind of as I got to a point where it was starting to take me down in my late 20s, and as I kind of understood what was going on, I started to work through it and all that, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I learned so much from what I dealt with, and so I wanted to make a movie that shows the realities of it, but is also a very positive message. So it's a tough movie that's a very hopeful movie, and deals with some of the stigma stuff, and I think there's still a lot of things out there that people don't want to call it that necessarily, or it's not going on here, it's and it's like you hope you make a movie where people go it does go on, and that's fine. It's something you just got to work with and learn how to work out.
Well, and tell me a little bit about what the movie's about, because I know people can watch it on
it's
Amazon.
on Amazon. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime, and then it's also on another site in the UK that's called Flix Premiere. That's an independent film site. That's it's a streaming site also. It's about a girl who suffers a tragedy at the beginning of the film. She is in a bad car accident with her parents, and she's the only one who makes it out. And she has to go live with her uncle and who's a single dad with an 8-year-old. And so it's sort of about how she has to learn to move through the trauma, and he has to learn how to take on another kid. And she's 17, so it's taking on a teenager. And the movie's sort of about their battle to learn how to become a family and move on from something that's impossible to move on from, and there's other elements in there as well that deals with PTSD, deals with self-infliction stuff a little, which is very common, which is why it went there, especially more common with a female character, And the movie's kind of a blend of my experiences with certain parts of it and things I know about, and the story kind of became a mishmash. I kind of write something and then go back and go, oh, I see what I was writing.
And the movie did really well at different film festivals. Did you expect it to be so well received?
I didn't know what to. It was my first feature, so I just was like, let's just try to get it out there, and then so I would say no. I was hoping. I knew I had a great Trip Green shot it, and knew I had a great cinematographer and a good group of people and good actors. That a lot of the teens I work with here were in it, which was great, and I knew we had a good group. So and then you just get out there and try to get it made with a first feature. It's so we made it for $60K, which seems like a lot of money, but to make a movie that goes like that in the basics and the things that you have to even think about it. It's a crew that worked their head off for very little money and an awesome group of people. And then it got Best Picture at a handful of places and Best Screenplay and Best Director at a couple places. So it was good to see all that.
And then I read that it was actually your second movie that you kind of wrote, and really the first movie that you produced, but the kind of the second one that you wrote and worked on. And that first one, you had an opportunity to pitch to A&E.
Yeah, I'm still working on. That's a dark comedy that I would love to get made, that I'm still working on, that gets really good feedback about the script and everything else, and then getting a movie made is just like, there's so many other factors that, well, we would love to do it, but we're doing this right now, or, but it was, it got down to, it got second at Pitch Fest, which was, got into, like, they select the kind of the top 5 projects that are submitted, and then you pitch it at a big event in DC. So we went up there and pitched it, and then it was the top feature film of the thing, but the pick was an episodic.
Okay.
So, which is, there's a lot of TV.
So we could see more. We could see,
yeah, absolutely.
So you have a lot of hats that you're wearing: actor, writer, director, on television, on stage. Do you have kind of a favorite hat or role that you?
No, I think I like the variety. Like what I would say, I used to think about how what is my favorite thing to do, and I think I just love storytelling. I think that's when I look at it after 20 years of dabbling and all these, I go, I just love to tell stories. I love to tell good stories. I love to I like to collaborate with a group of people to tell a story, so that part of it is I think what I love the most. When I write and direct and act, and all of the common thread there is you're always telling a story in some way,
And in your spare time, you started a theater company here in North Raleigh, which is called, as I said at the beginning, but it's called Moonlight Stage Company. Mm-hmm. It's here in North Raleigh. You have a black box theater. You teach classes to kids, teens, and adults. Tell me a little bit about Moonlight and what makes your company unique.
Well, I kind of waited till I had the right group of people around, and I started it. We're coming up on, I think we're about 4.5 years in, but I wanted to make sure I had the right crew of guys that were going to bring, I wanted to connect the entertainment stuff that we do and that people want to do to Raleigh and to bigger markets, and kind of try to also a place where we do a lot of original work. That is stage work, is film work, is kind of everything. A place for writers to workshop stuff. It's a mix of things that I've seen, like writers' workshops and things like that in New York that I was a part of. We were doing a writer's night now, and I'm trying to create a place that's developing material and also helping create stuff from the beginning and build it into something. And then and then also helping actors that, I grew up in Tennessee and Alabama and wanted to be an actor, and I wasn't dying to jump to New York and LA like a lot of people do and think you have to do. And the market's changed now. Atlanta's shooting as much or more than Los Angeles now. So and then the whole East Coast has television shows, and so being able to do both helps you make a living as an actor, and all the markets are growing, I think, because of that. As there's a bigger market for TV and film and all of that in Atlanta, more actors move there, so more theater companies start to happen, and as all that stuff generates, I think creating a sort of microcosm of that in Raleigh is what I want to do, that starts to connect to a lot of things and to the theater world here, and also with a lot of actors doing major television stuff, that we coach, that book it off of tapes out of our office, so doing things like that, and then as we build a theater company, connecting that so that Raleigh becomes a place you go, I don't have to move. I can be an actor and start learning how to train here and do all the things I want to do to get myself ready to either go somewhere else or do it here.
And how have you seen, you've been doing this a long time, so how have you seen this community evolve in terms of theater and the arts?
Oh, I think it's growing all the time now, which I love. Like me doing this in Raleigh 5 years ago was like, and as everything's grown, we have a bigger and bigger community all the time. I'm trying to keep up with that part of it as a manager of this place in a way, and but as in terms of, it connects to, a lot of our actors work with other theaters in the area, and we're also becoming a place where, because everybody knows we train a lot, like they'll email me and go, hey, Estes, you guys have anybody like this? And it's helping actors bridge to other theaters in the area, that, it's becoming a platform for that. And it's a way to help the people who come in here and go, I really want to train, I really want to be a serious actor or improviser or musician, and we do all those things in different ways here. So, we just put up a second musical that they wrote, that Carrie wrote with the kids, and is a kids show. So we're kind of trying to build these outlets that start to, and all the teachers here have worked a lot, so, which is another reason that I built it that way, to say, hey, hopefully all these teachers can be liaisons as they train people when they're ready, to say, hey, let me help you talk to these people, or if somebody's looking for, an actor like this, I gave them your name, becomes hopefully a liaison for that as we build our own company also,
And you mentioned you just did a children's show,
Yeah.
And it was an original children's show,
Yeah.
original music. Why, I ask this to almost everybody that I interview that works with kids, because I think it's really important to expose kids to the theater and to the arts.
Yeah.
But what do you think, teaching kids, what do you think exposing kids to the arts and theater does for them?
So much, whether they stay in it or not. That's one of the things we talk about here, is if they come here and train and have fun, don't want to be an actor, great, fine. What they learn is acceptance in a community. What they learn is confidence, how to express their own opinions, and all these things we build over time, or we work on building with the kids. Kind of whether they know it or not, we teach those things under the radar sometimes, and at the same time also, we'll have some come in and go, I'm really shy, I want to take an acting class, or an improv class, or some of them come in and want to sing, and a lot of what we do is show them that their voice is just as valuable as everyone else's. And I think that part of it, and a big part of the other reason why I built this place was because I didn't have anybody in my family who was an actor growing up, and I didn't know how to get into it at all. And I was like, and when they come in that door, we make that easy. How do we make that easy? How do we become a place where they go, I don't know if I want to do this or not. We go, hey, you're in the right place to figure that out. Come on in. And how do we make this a place that welcomes everybody? Really teach the kids to keep the clique out. We don't. Everybody's important. Everybody's valuable in their way. How do you foster that? And my staff really does a good job of that. And that's something that we make sure we keep at the front of the helm of this place.
Well, and you've talked about growing up in Tennessee. Family were not actors. You weren't
Right,
going to the
yeah.
theater. So how did you?
I spent 5 years fumbling around trying to find the business. I was like, I know I want to do this. I found a private instructor in Nashville who led me to a class, who led me to an agent, but it took a long time for me to understand where do I do this. And then eventually I went and trained in other places. I didn't go to grad school until I was 28. And I went to Carolina and got a master's in playmakers, and then, but it was all stumble around and keep knocking on the wrong doors until you find somebody who goes, oh, we can help you with this part of it. And then eventually I started to slowly figure things out, you know, and so I look at that journey and I go, hey, how do I knock that down to a year for people, or 6 months of, okay, I'm really getting productive with my training and my craft and meeting the right people and finding the practical habits that get you connected to the work.
Well, and let's put your next event here at Moonlight is a sketch comedy show for this weekend.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
That's all in-house comedy. This is I think our fourth one. And it's kind of like an SNL night. Like, we do a lot of 10-minute pieces that are, you know, we have the season finale to a parody of a telenovela that we've been doing that will happen tonight. And you don't have to have seen the season to understand what's going on. It's kind of a lot of fun, but it is the season finale for it. And then we have just a bunch of wacky different, some of it's holiday themed, some of it's just fun, and it's just a night to come get some laughs. And my company's amazing. They're all, we got a stand-up comic in there and a bunch of great actors and fun people. So they bring a lot to it. And I write about half of it. Mark Cornell, who's the playwright, that's kind of our resident writer, writes the other half, and we put it together over a couple of weeks. And then so tonight's one of our last rehearsals for it, and then we go up tomorrow with it, and it's a lot of fun. So.
But we have to say it's not for kids, right?
It's like 16 and up. Yeah,
okay.
It's not. Yes, I would say adult audience. Typically, there's not. I'm trying to remember if there's maybe a little bit of 4-letter word, and then that's about it. But yeah, I would say, you know, about there.
SNL age.
SNL age. Yeah, that's the best way to say it.
SNL
right?
age.
If you let your kid watch SNL, you're okay.
And I read, I think it was in the News and Observer, that you said every job is kind of a baby step to the next opportunity. So what's next for you, and what's next? I guess two-part question. What's next for you, and then what's next for Moonlight?
That's a great question. What's next for me is, you know, it kind of reveals itself to me. I'm still working on a lot of projects in terms of film and TV work. I'm auditioning all the time, and kind of that evolves as you do, as your credits evolve. That evolves in a way too. And then I just worked at Denver Center this fall and did The Constant Wife, which was a lot of fun. And that, you know, that was first as I've grown this place. Being able to go do a play was not possible 2.5 years ago, and we've gotten it to where I want it to be a place where the teachers can kind of still work, because that's so hard, such a hard balance for actors, is how do I work and then come back and have a job when I just left? Well, if we have this place that's kind of a hub where I'll sub for your class while you're gone, and you come back and get back into it, you know, it kind of makes it so you have that consistency and then the community to build that. So with me, kind of what's next for me as a writer-director is also kind of what's next for Moonlight, which in a way, they're not the same thing, but we're building, we started our sort of, when I built this place, I wanted it to be a place, as I was talking about before, where you come in and you can train here, and eventually I want it to be a place where you can get your first real job. And so that we can help you get demo reel and get the things you need to market yourself and all that. And so we shot about half a season of this web series we're doing. We're going to start putting up a lot of web series in the fall that we produce. But I want to also add to it as we're trying to grow into a slightly bigger space where we can add a larger theater and also a larger studio, so that we can, I'd love to have a show that's overseen but produced by the kids, along with other web series that our professionals are doing, so that it's a place where they can be working on their next thing, as well as giving back to the people who are learning and all that stuff. So we're kind of starting the fourth leg of this, which is the production side of things, and I'm trying to get the wheels under it as we move into hopefully a bigger space the next year or so, in the same area. I'm hoping we're starting to look for what that is, but I love it where we are, but it's as we grow, we need the size. So but getting to where and I'm still marketing. I have a couple of screenplays that I've written that we're trying to get made, things like that. I have a family-friendly screenplay that I would love to get put out there that's starting to be looked at a little. So, and that's still that dark comedy I was telling you about, Mrs. Wildermuth. But all those things are kind of, if we can get the legs under them, which is, we're getting there. We're starting to get production going, so.
Well, we look forward to kind of seeing where it goes.
Thank you.
And then people can come this weekend and check it out for themselves.
Yeah, come check out the sketch show. It will be a lot of fun. Absolutely. Yeah.
Friday and Saturday?
Friday, Saturday night at 8, yes, in North Raleigh.
Perfect. And I'll put the link to the website on Broadway World on Facebook so people can find you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Estes.
It was fun. Absolutely.